Hello, welcome to Network. My name is Pumela Lezondi with your technology and social media news. SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. This week, Twitter poll is asking us about the WhatsApp being down a few days ago. And we're asking you if you survived it or if you noticed at all that it was down. Results of that are coming up later in the program. Firstly, here's what's coming up in this program. We look at the reasons startups are leaving South Africa and what government is doing to keep them here. And in order to do that, we visit AWS Startup Day. In our conversation, we chat about coding that will now be introduced by government in schools. There are countries that are shopping around for tech entrepreneurs from South Africa. We do know that France has a startup visa. Canada has the same as well. Silicon Valley in the United States of America was built on startups that came from all over the States and the rest of the world too. So what's South Africa doing, if anything at all, to retain those tech skills so the startup ecosystem remains here?
Majority of these young people who don't get support, they don't have access to the networks. I went to Univen 2 weeks ago, and there were students who are doing PhD full-time. The students, Univen is known to be very good in law, to be in accountancy and agriculture. And I was saying, how much have you brought those sectors to come in and network with these people? How much have you brought these big industries who are players in the space to come and network and just be exposed to these kids, interact with the kids? Because what you call your elite universities, what they do is that exposure. That's what your Ivy League universities in the US do. They bring industry every quarter to interact with learners, and that's what our universities are not doing, but bringing this kind of forums. That's why I challenge to say next year it cannot be all these top people here. We need non-tech people, we need students here to be active participants and the dialogues to be exposed so that they create a network, because that's one factor. But secondly is that our country has been very weak in supporting entrepreneurship, and that's what we're now focusing on. How do we change that? How to bring a partnership between industry, government and other players to support entrepreneurship. For instance, there are no venture capitalists in this country. They're very limited, and there are a lot of businesses that are here, but you must challenge them and say but not only challenge them, incentivize them to become venture capitalists. The third issue is that we have not created, our rules are very bad. Let me give you an example. So everybody adopted Zoom and MS Teams for their virtual meetings. But there's Soft Meets, there's Natel, there's Cool Chit Chat, who have virtual platforms that are South Africans. When I want to get them, I'm told I must go on a tender. Who went out on a tender to get Zoom or in WebEx? Nobody went on a tender. So we put rules to limit our people, and those rules do not apply to external players. And that's what in the department we're busy fighting, we're busy with CETA to say those things must change. We must create an environment that supports what is South African innovated. We are working on a proposal to go to Cabinet to engage with National Treasury to say what is South African innovation. The South African government must be the first consumer. We cannot have a product developed. CSIR does a lot of good research and output, but they end up not being adopted by government because there's a tender that must be put in, and that tender they compete with everybody. Whereas other governments and other countries are not apologetic. That which is an innovation that is done in that country, it's compulsory, it must be used, no questions asked. They even improved it on the way. So that's what we are working on.
Well, we would hope that something is being done so South Africa doesn't lose a lot of those tech skills and tech entrepreneurs. And in order to help people in the tech entrepreneurship space, AWS held its Startup Day recently.
Amazon Web Services has focused single-mindedly on consumers for much of its existence. Now, it has a new obsession, a startup revolution that is sweeping the planet.
Well, AWS was built on startups. If you think about how long we've been in existence, since 2006, our very first customers were those innovators, the disruptors of industries that saw the cloud as an opportunity to accelerate their growth. And so since then, we've been very active with helping startups, not only through things like AWS Activate, which is a program with credits, support, education, content, and offers, but also through all the various programs that we offer that help startups along their journey, whether it's by technology scaling, whether it's through go-to-market assistance, whether it's through visibility and helping to tell the stories of startups as they're growing, building, and scaling on AWS.
In order to push that philosophy, Amazon holds an annual Startup Day, the AWS day-long session of solutions and interactive live discussions aimed at early-stage startups.
One, I think it's a celebration of startup innovation here in South Africa. And so we wanted to have a day just highlighting all of the incredible stories and also to share some of our experiences from AWS. Being that all of us come from startups, and we want to share some of the insights that we see, not only from our own experience, but also as an organization that helps startups each and every day.
The event brought together innovators from around the world who are working on building different solutions and exploring how digital technology can be used to protect the environment.
So we're sitting here on the southern tip of Africa. We need to build. We are a nation of builders, and something like cloud computing, like AWS, has been something we've relied on. This is my third startup now that I'm involved with, and it really connects you to the world. It opens up the doors for you to become a global company at a click of a button. So for us, we deliver services on 5 continents. We have employees all over the world, all working remotely, and we're really reliant on technology to bring us all together and to make sure that we can deliver value to our customers.
They also use this event to share challenges and their own success stories.
South Africa has some unique challenges. There are, of course, the regulatory issues making it hard for startups in South Africa to do business. We're going into everyone expects a bear market, making the funding environment much harsher for a lot of companies. But all over the world, the challenges that startups face are the same. You need to figure out how to deliver value to customers by recombining technology to provide something novel.
The company says African startups are already benefiting from Amazon Web Services with hands-on developer labs and expert advice on technologies such as AI and voice technologies.
It's been very exciting to see all the innovation that's been done around enabling. We actually here at AWS call them builders. So we're not just about developers. We've got architects, we talk about data scientists, we talk about sysadmins, and then we put them all under the one umbrella, which we call them builders. So there's so many technologies that we have and services that we have that actually seek to answer questions for each of these types of builders. And then going from there, we've got communities that we support. There are user groups throughout, actually, not just South Africa, all of the world, actually.
We're working with AWS. They've got an awesome support system for startups. You can get started with either the founder package or with a team package, and it helps support you so that you don't have a hosting bill within, a year or two, depending on how fast you're growing. But what we're finding is also the support within that AWS ecosystem is absolutely awesome.
Tech experts who attended the event say every startup needs to make innovation a part of its DNA if it wants to get ahead of competitors and retain that position.
On social media, we sometimes let our guard down and we forget that some of the people that we have conversations with there are not our real friends. We can even give them money to purchase certain goods or services for us. As we wrap up Cybersecurity Month, we find out about Mthokozisi Luthuli's story. He paid for a visa online, and the person who was going to help him get a visa ran off with his money.
Okay, basically the whole issue started with me having identified the conference in USA, which is part of how we grow as academics. So I work for the university, so one of the requirements of being an academic is that at least every year you must attend a conference. So I identify the conference in USA, and then ideally for the logistics, we rely on travel agents to organize everything for us. We have a guy that was referred to us by one of the agents, and then we have been working with him, even in the previous years, for him to organize trips going to Greece and a whole lot of other countries. So as usual, we went back to him, and then we asked him to help us to organize the visas, because he's a visa specialist, right? We approached him, and then obviously the guy quoted us in terms of how much the fees will be, which was 4,400 rands per person. We paid everything, and so now we were expecting obviously the visa to come, which was supposed to come before the 10th of October, which was our travel date. According to who is the guy behind all of this, the visa would take about 2 consecutive weeks before you can get it. Then amid everything, we started noticing that, it's either he's not responding to emails, or you phone him, he doesn't return your calls. This is after we have paid him. And to my surprise, when I went to the police station, I was basically, shocked at our justice system, because the more I explained about this situation, it was the more the superintendent that I dealt with there was trying to brush me off. I could tell that the more I explained the case, and then his words exactly were, there is no proof that the guy has defrauded us. This is a service gone wrong, this, that, and the other. All cost, but however, what I've been trying to do, I got a friend of mine to write to him and say he's going somewhere, just to see if he'll respond. And indeed the guy responded, because obviously it was another scam for him. So basically our contact ended there.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram News Network at sabc.co.za on email. After the break, we chat about the introduction of coding in schools. Government says it's finally happening. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Now, the coding curriculum is finally here. It's been in pilot phase for the last couple of years, and the government says they're ready to introduce it in grades R, 3, and 7 in the year 2023. To talk to us a bit about this is Mfundo Tsanibe, who is an author of educational books. He's also a developer of apps in the education space. Hello, and thank you very much for being a part of our network. Now, would you say that this is the right time to be introducing the coding curriculum?
Well, we need to have introduced coding to schools years before now, but the right time, the best time is now in terms of coding and robotics, because the future is going to be technology. We're already in that future, but we want to have learners that can develop these systems into the future.
And why do we need coding? Where will children be using it?
Well, the ability to code today is the ability to build things. So if you're thinking about building things into the future, we're talking about IoT, which is the Internet of Things, which is going to put together everything that is a product that we have, whether it's a fridge or it's a car. And for learners to participate there with an understanding, they need to have the base, not just to get this at a training level when they are post-school, but they need to start now, because there's a certain way of reasoning with coding. There's a certain way of thinking about these robots, and they need to start understanding them now. So it's important now, it's important into the future. I think the many years to come, we're still going to be needing these skills that they'll be gaining now.
A problem that's been raised in the past is that there are quite a number of teachers, in fact, probably the majority in rural areas who are not quite comfortable with computers, and you find that sometimes children end up teaching teachers how to use the smartphones that they use on a daily basis. Do we have enough trainers for this?
Well, we've got to have trainers. We know that the Department of Education has trained about 600 master teachers already, and those teachers are going to go in turn and train other teachers. Not maybe an ideal case from my side. I would have loved to see the IT specialist being trained on teaching and then being the ones who become teachers, then teachers become people who teach coding. But at the moment, the department has got more than 600 trainers that will be sort of making sure that the other teachers understand it. Will we have enough? We are not sure. I mean, we will see as we implement, but I do think that because we are also seeing a number of IT graduates not getting jobs, and if they were to do PGCE, those people could become teachers and they will assist us.
Medicine science in South Africa has always been another issue that some have said that is necessary for coding, and you find that there are also schools that have been found to encourage children to take what you may call the watered down version of mathematics in order to increase the pass rates. Will that not be a challenge?
Well, that question is quite wide because it starts to talk to what is happening with mathematics and how this will reflect on what we are introducing as coding and robotics now. But what I can assure you is that while maths is important and we think that every learner who's capable must do maths, coding has been proven to also be quite possible to teach to learners that did not really do pure mathematics. And I'm not going to talk much about the watered down maths story because I've had an opportunity to deal with both, and I do feel that there is a space for the mathematical literacy that we have, much as there is a space for mathematics. And with those basics, we think learners, for example, in mathematical literacy, there is probability. Just probability alone, when you are coding, is an important part of any program that you do, because you have to start to think about logic, and probability enhances the understanding of logic. So the people that are discouraging people from, learners from doing maths because of results, that problem needs a solution from the department, because if you then channel learners in a direction just because you want results, not that you are thinking about their future careers, then we have a problem. And that problem needs to be addressed. And I think KZN has really, Department of Education, KZN, has really attended to that problem head on, sort of calling schools to say, you can't just tell learners to take mathematical literacy without considering everything and involving parents.
Are you optimistic about the coding and robotics curriculum?
Absolutely. I mean, we can't not be optimistic because what it says is the government has finally seen that we need to change the position of the school system or the education system to allow learners to be responsive to the future. Now the future is already, coding is happening, and maybe we're waking up a bit late to it, but we see that it will be there for many years to come. We see companies talking about the metaverse. The metaverse will be coded by coders, and therefore we need those coders to be there. And the metaverse is likely to be a new world in the next 100 or even 1,000 years, where we are able to live in another spaces than just the physical spaces that we live in. And that is going to need coders. We're talking already about autonomous vehicles, and that is going to need coders. So much of life into the future is going to need coders. And I'm very optimistic that the kids that are being introduced now, they're going to have better options into the future.
All right, Mfundo Tsanibe, thank you very much for being a part of our network. Mfundo Tsanibe there is an author of educational books, and he's also an app developer, and that's of apps in the education space as well. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Let's take a short break. SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back. Here's what else took place in the rest of the world in the tech space.
Google parent Alphabet missed Wall Street estimates for quarterly revenue on October 25th as advertisers cut back on their spending in the face of an economic slowdown. The negative results reinforced worries on Wall Street that inflation will continue to hurt advertising spending. Last week, smaller rival Snap Inc.'s Snap.n's slowest ever revenue growth rate sent inflation fears through tech sector and temporarily wiped out $40 billion in market capitalization. Shares in Alphabet fell 5.8% in trading after the bell. Alphabet's weak results raised concerns for other companies in the sector, especially advertising-dependent Meta platforms. And now in Tunisia. Equipped with spectral imaging and artificial intelligence, this drone has the ability to scan massive agricultural lands and specify issues, facilitate resolutions for farmers, and save precious crop.
بالنسبة للفلاح إذا هو فيكو معناتها المارج نتاعو من عام لعام قصة السوديميني معناتها. دونك احنا إذا اليوم ما تعملش أنت مونيتورينغ للفيرتيليزاسيون تاعك وللإيريغاسيون تاعك وإذا ما تعملش دي زاناليز وما تعملش دي كنترول وما تعملش وما تتبعش معناتها أنت شنو معناتها أنا سامحني معناتها أنا اليوم الفلاحة ما عادش فلاحة تقليدية معناتها هي الفيكو لي كو ماشيين ويزيدوا تولي اوبليجي عليك انت باش تولي تخدم دو تيل سورت انك كل شيء تحسبه.
RoboCare was founded in 2020. The startup offers a solution to solve the rapid spread of diseases in greenhouse plants and the massive use of pesticides and can reduce water use for irrigation. Now in Israel. The country's 3D printed meat company Redefined Meat revealed a new large-scale meat printer called Angus at its headquarters in Rehovot in central Israel, which can produce different kinds of meats from plant-based ingredients.
In the past 2 years, we have been working deeply on understanding meat and what makes meat so exciting, and we identified a few components that we can recreate from plants and have the same exact performance as the tissue of animal meat, giving you, with the combination of additive manufacturing, the exact feeling you experience a good steak, a good cut of meat coming from an animal without the use of the animal.
Plant-based meat products are becoming increasingly popular with consumers worried about animal welfare and the environment.
WhatsApp was down a couple of days ago, and this week our Twitter poll is asking you if you needed WhatsApp for anything significant or whether maybe you didn't even realize that it was down when it was. And that's it. That's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za. That is on email. From me, it's Pumela Lezondi and the rest of the team. Bye-bye. Have a good one.